actually going to wait a couple of minutes more for one family member to arrive, so hang in there. Thank you. As you were.
Grandpa has eyes too. Like a black eye. Grandpa has blue eyes like me. It's not cute. You and I have blue eyes. Look at that. Who else has brown Look it.
Yeah, window.
Look at triangle window. Look at triangle, get that. Look at the triangle window. Look at triangle window.
Okay, well, it hasn't started.
We got a number of people coming into the chapel, so if there's empty seats next to you, if we can kind of get you to move in from the ends, so that we can still see the number of folks. Thank you.
Look it. Dad.
Right by the video.
Look at the that.
Well, I'll try them down there. Okay, thank you.
These are all available.
Look it. Look it. Oh.
Here, let's put it back on. It's just stuck on me.
Why is it a little piece of leather? And why is it
It's because, actually, hey, Ethan, tell me.
When sound dies, you're supposed to show that you are sad by tearing your clothes a little bit. Some people do tear their clothes, but if we don't want to tear our clothes, we put a ribbon on our clothes and then we tear that. So this shows that we're sad about something.
No. That's what happened to Mom's. 2 times.
Bruchim Hamadim, everyone. Welcome. And you may have wondered what I was doing with a scissor, walking around with a bright red scissor. There's a custom that when you lose someone close to you and dear to you in your family, you take an item of your clothing, or sometimes a ribbon that is representative of your clothing, and you cut it. And it's called kriya. which is the word for rending something. And you're saying that the person who has been lost affects your life in a way that it's never the same again. And even though you may recover from the loss, it's still a major event in your life, and you mark it by this piece of ripped cloth or clothing. So I just wanted to welcome all of you here and thank you for bringing yourselves to honor our dear, dear friend, Dr. Mike Chessin. And I want to tell a little story before we launch into this, which is when I was preparing for this morning, I was sending last few things to the funeral home for the program, and I could almost feel like Mike Chessin was like behind me, laughing over my shoulder. He says, "Oh boy, you're going to a lot of trouble here." He didn't really want to leave. He's a sociable person, and that's why he has so many friends in the room. But he was also, not just engaged with people, but engaged with the world. I think he wanted to see how the election turned out. So it's funny when you just palpably feel a person's presence. And our tradition teaches, the Jewish tradition teaches, that the life essence moves slowly out of the body, and that a person's soul really begins its final oneness with eternity after the burial. So Mike's with us right now, and we're sending him off. We're giving him a send-off, and we're giving him the kind of send-off that you feel comfortable doing when someone has lived 97 years of a very rich life. You just feel like this is a person who did so much and meant so much to many people in different ways and was able to talk to anybody, whether they agreed politically or not, as dearly held as his political views were. So it's, I think there's something we can do. We can take a deep breath and relax. This is normal. This is what happens. We live our lives, God willing, they're lives of meaning, and when it's our time to go, we go. And it's a mitzvah. It's really a fulfillment of a wonderful divine instruction, an opportunity, an honor to accompany him to his final resting place. So let's see what's up here. Do we have Hine Mato? Thank you. Back in the glass room there, the glass windowed room is Tyson, who is bringing things up. So Psalm 133, Hine matov uma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. How nice, how good, and how lovely it is to dwell together or to sit together, all together. So there are a number of melodies for this, and this one is kind of a sweet waltz. So I'll hum it first, we can sing it la la la, and then we'll put the words to it. Lai dai 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 הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. Mike Chessin was born in 1921, same year as my mother. I have a personal connection with him because he was always avuncular toward me. He felt like he was my sort of surrogate father, or really an uncle would be more fair to say. And the Chessin family that I know the most, which is Bert and Carol, Bert really welcomed me. He didn't have any need for more family members. He was very kind to me. I had a small family, and so, and no brother. And he agreed to sort of be my surrogate brother, which is really quite wonderful, and I'm lucky for that. What we're going to do here is make a mosaic of a eulogy. Many of the family members have something to offer: reminiscences, music, poetry. There might be a dance in there somewhere, but that might happen somewhere else. And so that's how we're going to remember him right now. And then there'll be a chance for a few people to kind of popcorn up and say what they might want to say. We won't have a lot of time, but we can continue it at Har Shalom at the Shiva, which brings me to something I need to tell everybody who's here. So we're going to be here until approximately 2, and then we will go to the cemetery for those who are going to go to the Missoula City Cemetery. And then we are going to be leaving there at 3:30 sharp and heading to Har Shalom, where we'll have dinner and conversation and music and dance and storytelling. In the Jewish tradition, Shiva, which is the word for 7, and it's that first 7 days after the person is buried that we honor them by sitting together and supporting the family. Actually, the point of Shiva is to support the family. So, I'd like to begin by inviting up family members. And, oh, I know, I want to do one other thing. If you look in your program, you'll see where it says welcome and introduction. To everything there is a season. Let's read this together. To everything there is a season. A time for everything under the sun, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to laugh and a time to mourn, a time to seek and a time to lose. This is the time we gather to remember someone who gave meaning to our lives. This is the time we recall the bonds that hold us, the love we shared, the memories that sustain us. And now we're going to begin with the family coming up and giving their offerings to us.
Oi, I'm not complaining. Dad struggled with God and found peace in the beauty and awe of the earth, awe of this earth and all its inhabitants. He lived up to his name, Meyer in Hebrew, meaning giving light or bringer of light. Over 1,500 years ago, his namesake, Meir, a student of Rabbi Akiva, and known for his intellect, sometimes beyond grasp. As a young boy, Dad was called Meyerki, Little Meyer. When children on the street heard his mother call him home, Meyerki, the kids heard, Mikey, thus the name Mike. At an early age, he had notable physical strength. They would say, Mikey is stronger than God. He played stickball on the street and idolized the sports heroes around him, whether a professional or a high school or a college player. He struggled with the expectations of his parents, whether to be a violinist or a learned Jewish student. Being the only son and son of immigrants, Dad had a healthy dose of being treated as special within the family. He was able to digest the old world wisdom and experience of his parents and build new hopes and visions for himself and America. his blossoming intellectual curiosity, and steel-trap mind drove him to look at science as the most powerful tool to understand the world. Inspired by Paul de Kruif's The Microbe Hunters, which he had me read, and Hunger Fighters, Dad set himself to make his contribution through studying disease. And as you know, he used plants as his medium. He also spent the rest of his life trying to understand whether God exists, and if so, what was its role in this very strange and wonderful world. Dad was comfortable engaging with professors and citizens from across the spectrum. One of the philosophy professors here at the university commented that Dad's thinking was deep. A student once commented that Dad fought important battles in a peaceful and unexpected manner. The student said, "Why aren't you out there ranting and raving and angry at the world?" Meaningful conversations with so many of his colleagues, family, friends, and acquaintances were vitally important to him and to those he engaged. Not only conversation, but social interactions such as dancing and singing and music were both personal and communal requirements. His world of reality and dreams were both natural and challenging. The drive to hike a mountain, fish a stream, ski a slope, pocket the 8-ball, and breathe the hopes of tomorrow were fulfilled in so many ways here in Missoula and Montana. Yet, he ventured into the rich, diverse world beyond Glacial Lake, Missoula. He dreamed of a world without nuclear weapons, of a sustainable, healthy, interconnected, peaceful world. The timeless challenge of acting each day toward that day was his example. I believe that God had a very fine partner in Meyer Chessin.
Mom.
Oi.
Mom.
Thank you, Bert. Who would like to come up next?
Please, Albert. Look at Mom. Open.
Here comes Sonia. This is Sonia.
Oh. Mommy,
Can you hear me?
watch it.
Thank you, everybody, so much for coming and sharing this day with us. We believe it's going to be a very fine day. I wasn't going to speak a lot today, but I just wanted to say mostly what I am extremely grateful for that my father gave to me, which one of the really big things was that he decided to move to Montana from California, and that choice led us to exploring nature here a lot. And I am so grateful to have that really deep appreciation of nature. And I also have been one who struggled with the concept of God, and I feel like I truly found it when I was in nature. And I am so grateful for being able to have that experience. I love being in nature. I love to hike. I love being outdoors. And sometime if you want to talk to me and I just say, I gotta go outside, it's really, I have to go outside, you guys. I'm also extremely grateful for the love of music, which I'd like to share a little bit with you today. I'm extremely grateful for the love of dancing, which we may share with you a little bit later on today. And just loving to look at different places in the world. I love to travel. And I was lucky enough with my family, my parents took us all over the world. And I am so grateful because my world has been expanded by that. And sometimes when I feel very insular in Warm Springs, Montana, I feel like I have to go somewhere else. And so I do sometimes. So I'm really grateful for that ability to be able to travel in different places of the world. We've been able to have wonderful friendships with people that we have met in different places. One of our great friends from Romania is here to share this experience. And the thing about being exposed to different people, my dad at some point I thought he was president of the Cosmopolitan Club, which is what they used to call the International Students Club. So I met people from different countries from the time I was very young. And I am so grateful because I really never saw anybody of different color, race, orientation, anything as different from anybody else. I always felt that everybody was the same, everybody deserved to have a good life, everybody was an equal person, partner in this experience, in this world. So I am very grateful for that too. It's probably led me to my life's work, and I'm grateful for that too. Let's see, travel, music, dancing, singing, loving people. Is there anything else? I do love the environment. I love being able to go out into the mountains and smell that fresh air. I don't think there's anything more wonderful than that. So I did a lot of dancing when I was younger, and one of those forms of dancing included flamenco dancing. And I have a really deep love for flamenco dancing. And my dad got really interested in Sephardic music at one point, and he brought to us a song that is really dear to my heart, and it was his favorite song for us to sing. So we're going to play that for you today. And I was trying to remember the year that we started playing it. It was a while ago. We've been playing it on stage for a long time, and if you want to hear it again after today, you'll have to come to first night. So that's just a little plug for that. So some of my friends are going to help me share that song with you today, right now. The name of it is Ideal. And we would like you to join us on the chorus if you'd like. The words are up here. And it means goodbye, my love.
Tyson, if you could put the words for adieu.
You got it now? Okay, good. Thank you.
So, it seems always awkward when you're in the middle of something like this. Am I supposed to clap or not? So you can send sparkles. I'm serious. You think I'm kidding?
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Who's next? Who's going to offer something? Thank you.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm one of the lucky ones that grew up in a family of culture, of the outdoors, of arts, of language, of travel, that brought such meaning to my life. And I'm searching for my memories, through all my memories, trying to decide what qualities really distilled my dad's presence in my life, and I'm sure many other people have similar experiences. My parents were a unit, and then we were the kids. But together, they created this whole. And my dad's part of this was really, for me, a search. He was a scientist. He had a searching mind to create meaning from all of his background as an immigrant. Well, he wasn't the immigrant, he was the son of immigrants. Of culture, of religion, of the arts, of the whole complex mosaic of New York. He was a scientist, but he was a humanitarian. He was an activist, and he was a cultural anthropologist. And if I can start from the end and go back, I have to say that our luckiness in being there at the end, the whole family was there to be with my dad, to help his passing, was full of joy as we sang to him childhood songs, and we talked to him and we held his hand. It was really quite beautiful, and I really believe he was not in pain. It was a beautiful coming together of a life well lived. The richness of culture was very important to him. And the last few words he said to me is that we have to help those people at the border. He really understood the struggle of an immigrant life, of seeking a better future. of people helping each other. I mean, just such a basic concept, a basic principle of people, a family, a community, a really world culture. That was really important to me as well. And I'm glad my whole life was infused with that. All of us got, oh, excuse me, thank goodness. All of us got the chance to play music. We had such opportunities that were really, really special. I also got the bug for dancing at a very early age, starting with folk dance and international folk dance and square dancing, but expanding throughout my whole life, and I still dance. And I will be teaching some dances later. Get your shoes on. What I think was so amazing is in all of that cultural search and study, whether it was books on history of the Jews or the Irish, or, you know, he really had so many different interests. He was always trying to distill some nuance that connected people with each other, that made our life experience unique and yet connected. And whether it was having music from different lands that we would sing or just play in the living room, but every family gathering somehow seemed that we got together and we sang. And that was really, really important to him, and I really value that. Certainly, I think all of us were seeded. My dad's seeds of travel that was really, and was very enriching for me personally, but for all of us. And I think that that we were lucky in that we had connections with some other Missoula families from a very early age. For a very long time, we did something every weekend as a family, but often with other families. And so 97 years, well, since 49, right, in Missoula. I think between my parents and Sonia and Esther knew a lot of people, Bert knows a ton of people. I kind of know a lot of Missoula, and the Missoula family, the Missoula scene. And I keep running into people that know me. I've been gone a while, but anyway, yeah, I really appreciate everybody's really good thoughts and love that really is coming out to us. Of course, he was a political person. He, well, I got into trouble for going to demonstrations and missing geometry class. But a lot of that activism was very important. And I remember one of my first really strong impressions was seeing the photos of Hiroshima. I thought they were so ugly. I thought they were so awful. I hardly had the ability to look at them. And yet, when he was in the army and he was in Europe and went from England through France and across to Germany, he saw the destruction of what war meant to people living there. And in his mind, he said, never again. I mean, I wish that would come to pass. I wish that would be, I know that he would have loved to have seen the end of conflicts without violence. And I think that was really important to him. But I just want to say, I think we're all the lucky ones. all that knew him. We're all the lucky ones from having our connections in whatever, over coffee or at the pool table. I have this image in my mind of a photo that somebody took over the last couple of years, I think, of Dad playing pool with his buddies. And it's one of penetrating vision. And it just grabbed me that his search for meaning was one of the things that really made my life rich.
Thank you, Nita.
To turn up the mic.
Oh, sorry.
You know what? I can't turn this one up, but Tyson can.
I'm so short.
One thing that I think that I can offer is the perspective of being his child, which I only share with a few people in this room. We all knew him in so many ways and meaningful ways, but he was my father. And I always find it very difficult to put into words what I really feel. And so I thought I'd write a poem, and hopefully you can fill in all the spaces with your own feelings. So anyway, I'll call this a letter to my father. A father, when coming upon his 5-year-old son, herding ants to their impending doom, he explains the role they play. Oh, okay. Is that better?
No, your mouth is too close.
Okay. Right there? I think I'll start over. All right. A father, when coming upon his 5-year-old son herding ants to their impending doom, he explains the role they play in the soil, in the ecosystem, describing how every living thing has an important purpose. Just leaving the son with this thought to ponder. And I still ponder these things every day. How walking for 30 minutes along the railroad tracks to that certain bend in the river, or 3 hours to the mountain lake, was not really about the destination and what was to be found there, but was more about the experience of the journey when having a destination in mind. And I stopped to reflect on the journey. Holding a tennis racket with aspirations to be fulfilled with one's own initiative. The father casually observing the competitions and finding beauty there while reminding the son how it must not interfere with more important matters and be kept in perspective. And I have learned to better understand what's important. The son observes the father passionately discussing the world around him with friends and colleagues and really anyone willing to engage, teaching by his example. He is not angry with others who disagree and would never raise his voice or hand. He is only seeking to understand and to be understood. And from this, I learned to stand in my own truth and respect the truth of others. When the son finds peace in the keys of a piano, the father would listen thoughtfully, providing context as if the melody must have a greater purpose. or be reminiscent of a moment in history, showing great excitement if the story or melodies resonated with his values, but always finding a way to encourage any meaningful expression of music. And if I can change the world to be a better place with a melody, then that is what I will do. What more can a father do to teach his children than to find their passion, to be a participant in the community and contribute to society, to love and elevate one's family? I am forever grateful for your love and you elevating my life. Though even a beautiful soul has imperfections, and so I can forgive you for yours. And I hope that this will help me forgive myself for mine. He always asked me to play for him, and he was always a very willing listener, so I just want to play a very short little piece.
Thank you so much, Saul. Ro, did you like to say something?
First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming and participating in this. Am I not on it? Can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to say how profoundly Mike changed my life. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, and Mike was in the Army in the Second World War. And he was in the infantry about to go overseas when the powers that be pulled some of the more educated soldiers out of their units and sent them to the universities around the country because most of the men were in the war and there were only mostly women in the colleges, and the colleges were suffering. Anyway, I just graduated high school when I met Mike. Actually, I met his friend who introduced us. And on our first date, we were at a party, a dance party, and we found that we both just loved dancing, and we just danced all night long. But what I really loved was that we went together for 18 months, and then he was sent to Camp Crowder and learned radio technology. Am I not speaking into it right? Anyway, and they sent him overseas. But we did get married before he had to go over. He called up and said, "You gotta come and let's get married." I've already done my blood work. And I had just accepted a job with a dentist to take his place of his regular gal. I had just been there one day when Mike said, "We gotta come. You gotta come and let's get married." So we did. And anyway, he took me away from Columbus, Ohio, which I was so grateful for. I never loved the climate, and we went to California, which I loved. It was just wonderful. It was so beautiful then, and they lived right near the beach, and it was just fabulous. And then he was sent to Philadelphia, which was my mother's home, and my two uncles lived there and their families. And so I stayed in Philadelphia and, really got to know Philadelphia while Mike was overseas. Anyway, we went to Berkeley after that, and Mike got his PhD, or almost finished it, when he got the job here in Missoula. The head of the botany department came to Berkeley and met Mike. He just happened to go in on a Saturday, and the head of the department, Dr. Severy, met Mike and talked with him a few minutes and said, "I'd like to hire you to come to Montana and teach." And that was a real blessing. We loved it when we came to Montana. It was so beautiful. It was 18,000 people, and there were no buildings beyond South Avenue to the south. It was just the airport, and beyond Russell, it was mostly farms and little homes, And it was a wonderful environment, but I couldn't get a job here. I just had a liberal arts degree, and there weren't very many jobs here. Anyway, so we started our family, and we have a wonderful family. We had 5 kids, and they all came out beautifully. You can tell we lost our youngest, Esther, last year, but they were all wonderful and different and had their own lives. But we were so grateful. And then because Mike was a scientist and he was interested in research as well as he loved teaching, and he taught for 41 years, and then missed it after he left university, but he was still involved in the university somewhat, but he really missed teaching again. But then when we started having these travels overseas and we spent 2 5-month periods in Romania, which was really wonderful because we were able to have our children there. And 4 of the 5, Sonia didn't come the first time, and the second time 3 of them were able to come and have that experience with a whole new culture. And we have one representative of the family that we met in '75, and his sister is on her way here. It was really life-changing. I mean, you get to know a different culture in a way that you don't when you're just traveling. And it was so enriching for everybody. But I also wanted to say about Mike that he was a wonderful father. He loved his children. He loved taking them out for walks. He loved talking about different plants. And he loved encouraging them in their different life course. But we did. We had wonderful friends here that we joined with outings in all around Missoula, and then we had to take up skiing because all our friends were out of town on the weekends skiing, so we had to take that up. And anyway, we had a wonderful life together and very enriching. Mike was wonderful. I don't think I would have had anything like the life that we have had through travels and a family to stimulate us and teach us new things. The girls especially changed some of our lifestyle as far as eating and, was concerned. But anyway, I just wanted to thank all of you for coming and being supportive of Mike. And he loved this environment, and I told him I would never leave Montana once I was here. I would never leave permanently for him to go anywhere else, because he did think about Boston at one point. There was a university that was opening a new area, and he was considered in that. And I said, I'm not going to Boston for, 5 kids by that time. And he was also thinking of, what was it in Tennessee, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They were doing radiation studies, and I said, no way, I'm not going south. I'm staying in Montana. So we did, and it's just been wonderful. We've had wonderful friends and experiences, and thank you all for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Floyd. This is Jacob.
The other morning, one of my good friends, John Ward, called, and I said, sorry for your loss. It's possible to say how much my grandfather shaped who my personality, my character, who I've become, and it's true. And I think it's true for all of his kids and his grandkids and even his friends and students. I think once you meet him and once he's touched your life, you are forever changed. I've got so many good memories of my grandfather. I could speak all day, from going fishing to walks in Paddy Canyon and him teaching me the different plants, not only their common names, but their scientific names that I've obviously forgotten. But in mid-August last year, I wrote a song, and I hadn't written songs in a while, and it came to me just fluidly out of the blue. And I realized afterwards it was more like a gift, and it's a song I want to play for you today. And I felt like the song has really helped me deal with the losses in my life, especially with Esther and now Grandpa. So I'm going to play that for you. This was Grandpa's guitar. He gave it to me when he wasn't using it, and I think Grandma kind of convinced him to let go of it. down next to me. Tell me a story. Sing me a melody. And after all these years, my star never went away. Shone its light brightly each and every day. After all these years, I still remember this place. Remember your smile, your voice, your so come on and lay upon my chest. Close your eyes now. It's time to rest. So come on and lay upon my chest. Close your eyes now. It's time to rest.
Is anyone else from the, this is an oxymoron, anyone else from the immediate extended family who's planning to speak? And I would like to invite up a good friend of the family who I think may have traveled here the farthest of anybody. His name is Doru, and I don't know much about him except that he seems like a really kind and warm person, and he'll have things to say.
Yeah, I'm the person who Sonia talked about in Seoul, Romania. Yeah, I remember it was in the mid-70s when Mr. Chessin came to Romania as a scientific something change of exchange. So he didn't come alone, he came with a family. And now we're a big family, and they're a big family. So the connection was right away. And the beautiful thing was that his kids, I mean Sonia, Sol, and Esther, it was almost we were almost the same age. So it was an extraordinary feat. Now I want to tell you something about Romania and communist Romania. We're not allowed to have connection with outsiders. Russians, yes, but not anybody from a communist country. So we grew up in a family. My father, my parents were very against communists. So basically, I would say that we didn't care, which is euphemism, but we didn't give a damn. So we know that if you be over there, you can take with the police. It was disaster. It was prison. But we are lucky that our friends, our neighbors, were not turning to the police. So they came. It was like 3 years, I think, from 75 to well, probably a few years. The greatest time of our lives. Imagine being a Romanian communist country, having American friends. We went every night, I'm not telling you, having parties, whiskey, and we didn't pay anything. They were, so it was great. Sonia, Sol, and Esther was with us all the time. Bert came later on. And I mean, personally, I thought it great. Of course, being in a communist country, it was all the capitalist society, it's a great society, everybody's excellent. It was all this culture and everything was superlative. And when we had communist country is very bad society, very extraordinary, it's evil. But one thing they have in great is education and culture. So we had piano in our house, and they play, and we played, when it came, they played piano, they played violin. And I thought that every American families are like this. So we came finally, after 77, when Carter signed a treaty in Helsinki, we could go as a political refugee to wherever we want to go. It wasn't easy from 77 to finally 81, we came here. So came to New York and get involved with American families. And to me it was a shock. They didn't have an instrument in the house. They didn't know who Wagner was, music. I said, man. And then I called Mr. Chessin. I said, Mr. Chessin, I start, really it was revelation to me. It was like for us, I mean, men, when our wife said that giving birth, it's such a horrible experience. We don't know it unless you are experienced. So I was lucky experiencing, coming here and see that that it wasn't like what I expected. So I started loving him more and calling them a lot, and this was, to me, was really a turning point, because I thought that everybody, American families are like this, but it wasn't. He was an extraordinary personality, extraordinary human being. He was a character. He didn't come here by himself, he took the family. And we are integrated like this. And I want to, I wish that not 50%, but at least 40% of the population of the world, okay, would be like him. Because really the world would be totally different. Or like my father. Because we grew up in the same thing. And Saul talked about being passive and just living by example. My father was the same thing. We were 11 children. And it was, everything was, whatever, he was not pushing us very low, but we knew that we have to do this. We have things in our mind we have to do. So I want to just leave with the, let's say, I would call Mr. Chessin legacy. I want all of you, okay, who have kids, go travel the world, buy a piano in your house, teach your kids to play an instrument, a second language. This is the beauty of life. I came here, I hate the communists, and I hate the communists even right now. But culture, it's an extraordinary thing they have in education. And I love them all, and we are, right now, every 5 years we meet each other, either here or in New York. And when I heard about this, I was so shocked that it happens. Yeah. And it was to me, it was really sentimental. When I called a person, said, how is he? He said, he just passed away an hour ago. God bless him, and I hope that he has a peace over there. And again, I'm serious. Just do what he did. Take your family, take your kids, okay, and then be connected with the culture of the world. Thanks. Thank you. It was my extraordinary question. And we are brothers.
Thank you so much. It's good advice. So we need to bring our time here to a close, and there's a few things to do before we do that. So give me a sec here. In our programs, under the yearbook picture, I call it. Let's read together There's a poem here by a woman whose name is Hannah Senish. She's a very early Zionist, and her life is another story. And she wrote this poem in Hebrew. In the first two words would be in Hebrew, Yesh Kochavim, there are stars. And let's read it together in English. There are stars whose light shines on the face of the earth after they are no longer in the heavens. There are people whose memory gives light after they are no longer among us. Those lights shine and illumine the road in darkness, in the gray of night. And then we have here, the family chose this text of Psalm 23 that we can read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I'd like to read to you something both in English and then sing it in the original language, in the Hebrew. This is called El Maleh Rachamim, the one who is filled with compassion. One who is filled with compassion. Cause our beloveds who enter eternity to find deep, true rest under the wings of Shekhinah in holiness and purity, like the radiance that fills the dome of the heavens. Ultimate source of compassion, enfold them in the embrace of your wings forever. Bind their souls with the bonds of life. Adonai, you are their inheritance, and they will rest in peace in your holy place. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Amsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utohorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Lenishmot Yakirenu Shehalchu Leolamam, Ba'al Harachamim, Ba'al Harachamim, Yastirem Beseder Kanafav Leolamim, Mitzror HaChaim Et Nishmatam, Adonai Hu Nachalatam, Vayanuchu B'Shalom Al Mishkavam, V'nomar Amen. And I would like to conclude with a prayer on the back of the folder. This is the Mourner's Kaddish, and its name in Hebrew is actually Kaddish Yatom, which means the Orphan's Kaddish, and it really refers to the fact that in our tradition there are 7 primary mourners: mother, father, sister, brother, daughter, son, spouse. However, some of us feel so close to the person that's passed that we take on that role of primary mourner for at least this moment, which is to say the Mourner's Kaddish. So I would like to invite all of you, if you wish, and if you're comfortable, to rise, and then we'll chant this together. Yitkadar Yitkadash Shemei Abba Ve'alma Tibrach Yamlich Malchutei וחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו. לעילמים כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיים וחיים עלינו אל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ואל כל ישראל ויאמרו amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all of Israel and to all the world, to which we say amen. And this concludes our service. Please, you may sit down or remain standing because we're going to be leaving the room shortly. We're going to head to the burial ground, the Missoula City Cemetery at 2000 Cemetery Road. And then from there, we'll be going to Har Shalom on 3035 South Russell for the Shiva. There's wonderful food and a beautiful pot of soup that's like this big from Bob Marshall and many contributions by other people. So we'd love to welcome you there. And Tyson from the Garden City Funeral Home is going to describe to you how we might go to the cemetery if we're going to be part of that procession.
Ladies and gentlemen, to head to the city cemetery, we are going to go out our west drive here at our parking lot and get onto Mullen Road. We're going to go across Broadway at the light. I need you to stop if the light turns red. Traffic will not stop for us. We will cross Broadway. We will get to Russell, go around the Senate station right there, and jump onto Phillips. We'll take Phillips all the way to Scott Street, turn left, and we'll head over the Scott Street Bridge. And then we'll turn left on Rogers, which actually turns into Cemetery Road. It kind of curves around. I do need you again to stop at the stoplights, stop signs. We will wait for those that would like to come with us, get your coats and things. I'll have the pallbearers come forward. We're going to take Mike to the funeral coach out these doors, and then we will proceed shortly. We will have a stop sign. We'll be able to stop traffic to get onto Mullen, but once we get on Mullen, we won't be able to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're good. Everybody.